All right, let's figure out what we'll do for our products at this point. I'm going to create a new stack and say first stack. This will be kind of like our proof of concept. And I misspelled it, but update, great. That all works great. We can't create a product at the moment that's like without pain, I guess you could say. So we need to update some of the routing structure in our products controller because you'll see these path URLs aren't quite right. So let's go and do some of that. Let's go into our code. And in my products controller, nothing's really going on here outside of the normal scaffold. So let's figure all that out at this point. I'm going to clean it up some and remove the comments. And we will want to lock this down like we do with the stacks controller. So before action will be authenticate user. And we'll say accept index show. We'll just keep that as is for now. Below that, we will want to actually find the stack with each request. So because of the nested nature in our routing, we need to have that stack ID pretty much always present. You can see it here in our params actually. So we'll need that accessible. So we'll say another before action to save us some keystrokes with each action. We could say just set stack. Now on the product index, which I don't think I even made it to in this app, you probably don't need that. So you might need to modify that to only be index, except index, I should say. For the create action, we'll keep it alone like as is for the now. I'm going to update it to be pretty much a whole big background job task that is part of a web scraping adventure we'll go on. So that is to come. For now, I'm going to keep it the Rails way. So let's keep this going. I don't need to do the formatting so much, so I'm going to get rid of it in this specific case for our traditional CRUD actions. So update, destroy, all that stuff. You will notice that our URLs are off though, because based on the new routing, again, it's not quite accurate. So we need to update those. Just doing a little housekeeping at this point. The updates to the actual like URLs, instead of, I'm gonna eventually remove all this, but I'm gonna keep that for now. For the update action, we'll keep the stack product URL and we'll go to the stack. And then the same for the destroy. Instead of the products URL, we'll just go back to the stack itself. Because we are going to have, I believe, the products render just on the stack show page instead of like its own product page. I feel like that makes more sense. So you can get the stack view plus the products that's within the stack. So those are all words. They'll make sense soon. Let's set the stack. Forgot this part, so we'll just actually do the stack where we get the stack from the request, the stack ID. Now, part of Rails, just based on the routing structure, will do this automatically, so you don't really need to worry about like naming this any specific way. If you look, I have my routes pulled up here. If you look in the way it prints out, it's going to look for that anyway in that structure instead of just the traditional ID. And that's basically just set up nested structure, if that makes sense. So it just automatically does that out of the box, which is great. We'll come back to the sharing concept and everything else in a little bit, like sharing of a stack. So we'll do that coming up. I'm gonna double check my stack looks good. The controller, maybe clean this up too. Again, we don't need all this JSON. Oops. Nor do we need the respond to block. Can remove one of these statements and the format object hash thingy. We get rid of that. Just to clean this up. I already know it's going to be HTML responses, so we don't need to go too wild with that. Same with this. that's right. So if this redirect, else render edit with the status. Oh, okay, that works too. There are pros and cons to scaffolding, and this is kind of the con. There's always some stuff you just gotta clean up. Look at the views next. I want to make sure our product can be created. So I'm gonna go back to the new page. We have some issues with our form. So if we wanna go into the form and add, it will actually be the stack. We need to add the routes for this URL to be accurate. So if we do something like this, it should load. We do have an issue with these conflicting. I'm going to get rid of those though. Same with this markup. Just keep the submit button off on its own. That should give us our product. The brand, we don't have one yet. Let's create one. Or I actually did create one behind the scenes. So there's one here. I just used the form here. New brand, create one, done. And that will be, in our case, the ID of brand will be 1 because it's the first. So let's go into our stack. And I don't have a button here to create a product yet. So I'm going to add that real quick right there. I'm going to add just a new product. Link to new, or we'll say like add product. And we'll say new stack product path. I think that's right. Pass button primary. And am I on the right page? I'm on the product show. So we want to go back to the stack show. Do that here. This won't look perfect, but I just want to get it. Oh, I have it backwards. Stack product path. There. All right, and we could maybe just do like a gap of 4 here. A little space between. That takes us to the form. That gives us a clickable place to go. I'll just put sample product for now. Test description. Like I said, the goal of this is to not even have the user input anything other than a link. So we're going to come back to this and clean it up a lot. Brand, I'm going to put 1 for now since we already created that. So again, we have the wrong URLs in our product controller. So let's go update that. This is kind of just a make sure our routes and paths are correct in this case. I'm going to just redo, make this simple, even though I'm going to delete it all in a second. Okay. Whoops. Jump the page. I'm going for perfectionist with the indents, so I'll get rid of that. Still have some comments straggling around. Okay, if I refresh this, I don't think it created it, so we'll say test product. Okay, so we still have issues with the show page, which means it did create it, so that's good. So instead of products path here, we could say stack products path. Yeah, and then push our stack into that so we know which one we're referring to. So we can go back to, what page is this? Index. I don't think we'll ever be on this page, but I could be wrong. New stack product path. View product, we need an actual like stack product path, stack. When you start to nest stuff, it gets complicated fast. So this is why it's annoying. But here's all of our products. Great. You can go view one. Issues on the show page. So we edit stack product path. We need the stack. There we go. Okay. We have a product page. Now our products edit page is a little iffy. So stack products path. Just updating these is kind of tedious. It's one thing that would be cool if I could like programmatically do that, but I don't know how. Stack product path, and then we'll say stack. Okay, this is all just to set us up so we can go and do it programmatically and then clean up the view and everything after that. So we've got our form working here, we've got our products index and our show view loading, which is great. Okay, next, let's make the dynamic side of this function. You know, I want to actually add a thumbnail to the form real quick, and then we can come back and then do the Amazon cool scraping stuff. So let's go to the form. I want to add, or let's go to a product. I want to add a thumbnail, which I won't really utilize crazily, but we can add. So we don't have it in our model yet, and I'm going to use active storage. We already have that pretty much built into the app. Rails UI installs active storage by default. So it's just one more tool in your tool bag. We'll say has one attached thumbnail, we'll call it. And that pretty much gives us the ability to attach something right now already. So we'll go into our edit page. I think it'll be edit, it'll be a form, the form actually. And I'll put it closer to the top, just to give you the bones of what we're doing here. So form, label, thumbnail, class, form, label, and then form file field. Thumbnail, class, form, file, input. I believe that's right. Let's go to forms. Rails UI copies over some stuff for use. I'm going to make sure we use it right. Form file, right here. Okay, so just form file. And there is some specific markup we need, so I think the label might need to come after. Let's check our system. You go to forms and then input groups. Is it actually inputs? File input right here is what we want. So it's a simple, the label surrounds. So let's do it that way. Do. And instead of having anything like read out, we'll have a span class. Again, I'm going to add this all dynamically, so this is just extra points if you want to follow along. So we go into the form field. We have our choose file image right there. And then it should go and open a dialog. My computer's hanging though. So while it does that, let's go close this out. There it goes. I want to add this as the edit form. So the whole goal here eventually is just to go, you won't even see this form. Essentially you'd be on the stack and you'd see all the products displaying down here as in our demo. So what I'm going to do is rename this file to edit form, and we'll render this separately on the edit page. So our edit page will be basically the default of what's Rails UI ships with, but we'll just say edit form instead. And that'll make it all good and grand. So if we go into our products, which I don't have listed yet, but maybe we could show on the stacks. Under the stack, we could say stack.products.each do. Let's see, products. product, product, product. A lot of repetition there, but we'll figure that out. It'll be a lot more nice. Okay. So we do have products. I don't know if it associated it yet though. So in our controllers, you would essentially need a way to have the stack I think something like that could work. You could also do like take that product new and then insert it. Let's see if this works. Got that off. So we don't have a form partial now. So I'm going to actually create that. And this one will be unique because it's going to be just that one with the link, and then we'll do the rest behind the scenes. So I'm going to have the stack and product still. We'll have instance of stack, so we can just pass it through. We don't have to like actually make it a local variable if you don't want to. And then close the form off. So this gives us our routing that's correct. And then I'll do our error messages. Resource, so form.object. And then we'll have what, just a simple form group. Form.label. And that will be a link, and we'll say Amazon link just to be explicit there. You could go get other merchants out there that would, you want to scrape. It's up to you. I made it simple to start. Form input. We'll do just a placeholder with a link just to show people, hey, just go get the link to the thing as you're viewing it on the site. So I'm going to grab this one for now just to get something. I want to cut it off there. The main number we want to pay attention to is that one. That's the ASAIN number. All right, and then I believe we just need the submit button. What is going on with my cursor? Okay, form.submit. I'll actually make this say add product. And then we'll do a class of button, button primary, and button large to make it big old thing. So that should render the new form. This is it, basically. That's all we want to have the end user worry about. So now that gives us ability to see products as they're shown. Just like so. Great. Now I'm not really going to worry about like getting the product's controller logic down when we create a product, because this is all going to go away. We're going to do it dynamically. So I'm going to just essentially comment that out. But that's essentially, if you're doing the Rails way, this would be, I think, the approach. So now what I want to really do is get this to show up using that form we just had. So I basically want to get the UI in order. We have our rendering of the product, but I want the actual form to appear on this page. So in light of that, essentially I'm going to do a rendering of that form. So we'll say render products form, and then we could just initiate. I think that's the word, with the product.new. Okay, that gives us our form ready to rock and roll. And not very descriptive here, so let's go and make it a little more easy on the eyes. Instead of the stack ID, I'm going to do stack title. Get rid of that ID attribute thingy. There we go, first stack. Then we'll update this to say the same. And I'll actually pull that out on its own line above everything. Get rid of this flex one. That puts everything here on its own line. So let's adjust that next. it will be flex item center, justify between gap, and then gives us our little divider. I'm going to get rid of the border up here though. Just keep the padding bottom there. And this needs some margin. Great. So eventually we'll have a share link here, so you could just share the whole bit. And we actually don't even need this. Below this bit, I'm going to add a flex 1, flex items center, gap 4. And we'll surround this stuff with another div, which will be basically shifting it to the right. Eventually we will add link to stack. And then we want that to be a unique link and not just like the ID, even though it's okay if it is. It's just one of those things that might look a little better if it's not so easy to remember. So text, slate, 600. I'm going to add the timestamp too. This isn't crucial, but it is something I just added. And then date, time will be stack, not created at. There used to be just a toString, but I think I'm going to do formatted string. I think that's the new preferred way. Keep that in quotes. We'll say created time ago in words stack.created at. I'll just pass that through, and then it's gonna not append ago, so I'm gonna just do that. It's kind of like muscle memory here. Ago. So that gives us when it was created. And then our links to add stuff over here, we can add. I mean, we already have the gap. I guess we could just leave that alone. Wonder if that will just kind of do its magic. Yeah, okay. These buttons shouldn't really be, I mean the edit button anyway, shouldn't really be here if it's not your own. So we'll say, I'm gonna make a new method here. Current user stack. You pass the stack through. It'll be a helper method. Else this. And if you're not signed in, which is gonna be part of this method logic, it'll still link to the new product path, but the whole goal there is the controller will catch that. So on the new product path, we're doing this authenticate user because we don't have it accept here in this little array. So with any luck, that would catch that, and we wouldn't have to worry about like doing a conditional statement for the URL here instead. So I'd prefer to do it on the controller layer than the view if it saves me some keystrokes, but at the same time, it might be easier to understand if you can see it in the view. I think it's a preference. Okay, so let's create this method. Current user stack. I'll go into the helpers. I'm going to go in the stacks helper since it was generated. It'll be a new little Ruby method. We'll pass the stack through. And then we could say, well, first we want to check the user signed in. And then we'll do a double and, so say and stack user ID. You could just say stack user equals current user if you wanted. Simplify that. So this should work. So I'm not signed in, or I am signed in, but if we go and say sign out, I'm gonna do a new window though. This should say add product, but it would bounce me here because I'm not signed in, if that makes any sense. Cool, cool. Since I added this stack, I can edit it. My ID is associated with it. Okay, so then below we will add our form with a little more flair. So we'll say P6 border BG indigo 50, 20, and then border indigo 600, 50 rounded, 2XL, shadow small, and then margin bottom 6. Then in there we'll have an H3. It will be a font semi-bold and text XL tracking tight. Margin bottom 3, and we'll say add a product. One thing I wanted to do that would make sense in this regard is the stack products rendering. So that's what we're doing down here. Once it gets added dynamically from our upcoming logic, I'm going to add, there will be some turbo stuff involved. I think I'll leave that for that moment when we create it to add that stuff, just so you're not confused. But that essentially wraps up the UI that I wanted to install. If we create a product right now, if you create it, it's going to error out because we don't have the brand ID, which it requires. The upcoming part after this will be adding the necessary backend scraping data that goes and fetches Amazon page, gets the data we need, creates the product, and then uploads the image, all that stuff, all that fancy stuff, and goes from there. So I'll see you in that part.